What's going on, everybody? It is Preston here from the Legendarium. Welcome to a brand new episode of 30-Minute Author Interviews, episode 9 to be exact. And for this episode, we're going to hop across the pond over to England, and we're going to spend the next 30 minutes with M.A. Phipps, who has a brand new book coming out this week for you. So guys, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 30 minutes with M.A. Phipps. Welcome to this episode of 30-Minute Author Interviews. Thank you for joining us, M.A. Phipps.
Hi, thanks for having me.
For those that might not know who you are or what you do, why don't you give them a little quick bio on who you are and what you do?
Well, my first name is Molly, and I'm an American author. I currently live in Cornwall in the UK. Other than writing, I am also a freelance graphic designer. So I mainly do book covers, which is great because it means that everything I do work-wise revolves around books.
Sounds awesome. I've seen some of your covers online. You do a really good job. So.
Thank you. Using my degree, I'm sure my dad's happy about that.
Yeah, that's true. So your first book that you put out is Ultra Zenopia. Why don't you kind of give people the little book blurb about what that's about?
Well, basically, it's about a girl named Winter, who is your standard upstanding citizen of a futuristic dystopian society known as the State. And in this society, everyone is very disconnected and cold, and, you don't step a toe out of line. You don't even really interact with other people. And so she's one of these, always wants to just follow the rules. But unfortunately, something happens to her that causes her to stand out. And as a result, she's abducted and forced into experimentation at the hands of the DSD, which is a research facility run by the government.
I'm going to jump back for a second. You said that you were born in America, but now you live over in England.
Yes.
So how did that happen?
When I was in my third year in college back in the States, I decided to do a study abroad semester. So I came over to the sister school in London for about 6 months, and I just felt it wasn't really long enough to experience Europe. So I made the move to fully transfer for the last year, which ended up adding about a semester on to my college career because not all my credits transferred. And literally after 2 weeks of fully moving here, I met my now husband. So permanently settled here now. So
is there anything that maybe you didn't care for when you lived here in America that now you've discovered over there that you love or like?
Yeah, I love free healthcare.
Do you watch what we Americans call soccer over there? Have you gotten into that living there?
Oh, my husband's a big football fan. Yeah.
Is he? Which team does he root for?
Birmingham.
I won't hold that against him. I'm an Arsenal fan.
Well, he likes Arsenal too.
Does he? Okay. Right. All right. That's good. All right. So back to your book, Ultra Zenopia. So you create, or I don't know if you create, there's a trailer for the book. Who created that?
I did. Part of my degree was in film production. And well, basically my degree originated in photography and then moved into digital art and then film production. So everything you see from my books, the promotional images, the book trailers, it was all made by me.
How long did it take you to do that trailer? Because that's for those that haven't seen it, head over to thelegendarium.com and look at the show notes. I'll put the trailer in the show notes. It's a very well done trailer. I mean, it almost looks like a movie trailer. How long did it take you to actually put that together? The actual trailer to put together, maybe an hour. Really?
Well, it's more the finding the right clips that takes the longest. Once I actually have all the material, it's just a matter of slicing it together. It's not hard at all.
Do you know if there will ever be an audio version, an audiobook for Ultra Zenopia?
Yeah, it's actually in production at the moment. We had a bit of I won't say a hiccup. It was just when it was originally first contracted was when I had originally self-published. And then she had started work on it, but then it got picked up by my publisher and it went through revisions. So we kind of discussed about, holding off because we wanted the audiobook to be the newly released version. And then she was out of country for about 6 months. And then she does a job during the summer months that is quite, doesn't really have access to technology.
Right.
So she's done a bit, and she's going to continue it again next month.
Sounds good. So, as you said, you first put out Ultra Zenopia self-published, and then you got picked up by CHBB Publishing. Why did you decide to go indie in the first place? And then what was the process you did to get recognized and picked up by CHBB?
I had Ultra Zenopia is actually the second book I've written. My first book, I had spent about 2 years querying agents, and then I spent, I think, about a year with Ultra Zenopia querying, and I got some great reactions to it. But was kind of ultimately told a lot of it boiled down to dystopia is kind of on the decline. So big publishers aren't really after it. So I kind of just got, I won't say fed up, but I just wanted my work out there. I knew I wouldn't grow as an author without seeing readers reading my stuff and getting their responses to it. So I was like, I'm just going to self-publish. But unfortunately, I didn't really know what I was doing. So when I self-published, no one knew about it. But as I was self-published, I, started gaining contacts, started, kind of getting acquainted with people and learning what, how you actually get exposure, even just a little bit as an author. And then I thought, it's already been published, so it's kind of trying to get it picked up from then on out, unless you're like Hugh Howey, isn't going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I was like, well, small presses, they'll look at a previously self-published book if it has like series potential. And I knew mine was always going to be a trilogy. So I contacted a couple, and CHB was actually my top choice. And I heard back from Sarah, who's the owner, and she loved it. So then the rest is kind of history.
So I've got kind of two questions based off that. So they told you, some of the publishers at first, that dystopian was on the decline. Mm-hmm. Did they tell you what publishers were looking for, or what they think is the next quote unquote big thing in literature? No. It's just, I think you have things that will always be kind of, desirable to big publishers, things they know that will sell. But I think they just look at audience reactions to certain things. And I think when something blows up like the Hunger Games, and then you had like Divergent, The Giver, all these things suddenly being made into films. I mean, The Giver is like quite an old book, and suddenly they brought that back just to make a film out of it because dystopia was this big thing. And I think they could tell people were starting to get a bit sick of it. So they're like, well, let's back off. There's no point trying to keep pushing dystopia if people don't really want it anymore, which it's silly because there are still plenty of people who really love dystopia. Yeah.
But it's just like anything, it kind of comes and goes. It will be a big thing again at some point in time, just maybe a couple of years from now.
Yeah, at some point. And it's kind of weird with the whole Divergent thing. I've never read the books, but, it was announced here in the past couple weeks that the final movie might now just be a made-for-television series.
It is going to be. It was just confirmed yesterday, and I think that's so bizarre.
Yeah. I didn't see the third one. The trailers just didn't grab me like the other ones. Yeah,
it wasn't great. You could tell that their budget had been slashed because the production quality was kind of, but then again, I was a film major, so I kind of have an eye for that.
Right. So you said that CHBB was your top choice. What was it about them that really drew you to make them your top choice?
They have a lot of exposure, a lot of best-selling authors, and I kind of felt confident that if I did get picked up by them, I would have that help, kind of learning the industry a bit better than I could figure it out on my own.
What do you see, since you've kind of now done self-publishing and traditional publishing, what do you see as the benefits of each one?
I mean, obviously, you'll always hear people say with self-publishing, you get more royalties, you get to decide everything, you get to dictate everything, whereas a publisher might say they don't like a certain part of your book and they want it changed, or you might not have a say in your cover. But the thing is that I'm kind of the mind that I'm willing to give up some royalties for the help that I can get. Like, my writing has grown tremendously since meeting my editor, and that wouldn't have happened if I had been self-published.
What was the inspiration? So this trilogy is called Project W.A.R. W.A.R. What was your inspiration for this trilogy?
It was kind of a few things. The first was when I was in high school, I read George Orwell's 1984. And to be honest, I hated it when I first read it. I absolutely hated the book. I thought it was terrible. But it was because it affected me. And I picked it up again a couple years later and I read it, and I was just so haunted by this idea of this big brother society, where I remember there's a specific part in the book where he's just in his apartment and there's just a camera there watching him. And he's like, there's no escape from this society at all. And I was like, I'd really love to incorporate that somehow in something. And then during high school and then college, I became really interested in the history of World War II because my grandfather fought in World War II. And I didn't know the details about what he did until recently, but I knew he had fought in it. And I was just always really interested. And I came across some information about something that happened in China during that time called Unit 731. And basically, the Japanese at this time tested biological and chemical warfares on people, and 300,000 people died. And I'm just going to say it right now. Do not Google image this. Do not Google image it. I mean, I have a really strong stomach, so I'm fine. But I know not everyone does. But it was really disturbing. And what was even more disturbing to me is that, like, no one knows about this. Everyone knows about the Holocaust. Everyone knows about the European side of it. And I know in the States, we learn about Pearl Harbor and all that. But I had never even heard of this until I specifically went out of my way to research everything that had happened. And I kind of then thought, and then, recently with all the terrorism and everything, and you hear in the news about North Korea, how the people there, they think America's like an apocalyptic wasteland and everyone lives in tents because they're told by their government this, and they have no way of knowing what's really happening. So all these different outside elements kind of combined to create, the state. The DSD was based on Unit 731. Obviously, the experimentation is completely different, but the idea of it is there. And then I don't know if you ever did it, but in middle school, we had something called, I cannot remember what it was called, but I know the software for it's called Kudos, and it's like a test you take. And it tells you what career you'll do when you're older. It's rubbish, but that was the basis for the test in the first chapter. I know a lot of people think it's from Divergent, but I promise I haven't even read the books. And I only saw the film like 2 months ago, but it was actually based on this silly test I took when I was in middle school.
I think I took that in high school.
Yeah.
Just playing around. And I think I got policeman one time, trash man another time.
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous. They tell you like 50 different options, but that was when I started thinking back to it, I was like, what if that test actually you had to do it? It wasn't just kind of telling you what you could do. It was like, no, you have no choice. What it tells you, that's going to be your life.
I don't even want to know where they put me. Oh, man. So I read in an interview that you did that one of your friends came up with the word ultrazenopia. That's
right, yeah.
Do you know the story on how they even came up with that and what it means?
Well, I'm really big on accuracy in novels. That's why I went through so much hassle to research, all this stuff. And my brother and sister-in-law are scientists, so I really wanted, because I knew this would have a very big science/medical aspect to the story. I was like, it needs to be believable. I need to know the right body part names. And luckily, I knew a fair amount already from classes I had taken, but I was like, I want to be sure that I'm right. And medical terminology is always, I think it's Latin, prefixes and stuff, but I didn't know how to combine it. So I had the list here and I knew what each one pertained to, but I had no idea how you combine them. So my friend back in the States works in the medical profession. I kind of said to her, hey, can you help me? And she said, well, tell me what the disease is. Tell me what the symptoms are. Tell me what the effects are. And she walked away and gave me basically a list of words that she said, if it was a real condition, this would be, a potentially genuine name for it. And she also actually came up with one other word in that book. When Winter first finds out about her condition, Dr. Richter calls it a phrenoextratic condition. And that's another made up word.
So when did you know that you were going to use ultrazenopia as the title for your first book?
I think it was literally a month before I self-published. I'm terrible at titles, and I went back and forth on a million different ones. I had 4 people's input, and I was like, please just, and actually, funny enough, my husband and my father both told me that ultrazenopia is not a good title. Don't use that. But I was like, no, it's unique. People will be like, what's this? And I actually have had a lot of people message me saying I bought it because of the title.
That's cool.
So I was like, yes.
So I'm kind of curious. So you had a different cover for Ultra Zenopia when you self-published it, and then you found covers by Christian, who does amazing covers.
He does, yeah.
You were just about to, if I remember right, you were just about to re-release the new cover when you got signed on with CHBB. Mm-hmm. Was it hard to convince CHBB to let you use his covers and continue using him as a cover artist, or were they pretty okay with that?
Oh, yeah, no, they were absolutely fine. Sarah loved the cover, and she thought it, matched the book really well. So she was more than happy with that, and she loves the cover for the sequel. So no problem there.
That is awesome. So Ultra Zenopia is the first part of your Project W.A.R trilogy. As you continue to keep writing in this world, and you're getting ready to release book 2 here, do you see it maybe going further than a trilogy, or maybe starting another storyline after you're done with the trilogy? I
wasn't going to mention it for, a long time, but it will definitely be a trilogy. There's no way Winter's story will go beyond that. But the more I thought about it, and you can thank my beta reader for this, I've actually decided to do a prequel after I do the trilogy. It would just be one book, but it would show how the state came into existence.
Oh, okay. That'd be interesting.
I mean, you do get some background on it in the second book, but obviously I'm of the mind that you kind of just say what's necessary for the story. Mm-hmm. And it's not really that vital for Winter's story. But I know a lot of people want to know more than I'm going to be providing. So I thought, well, it would be a good opportunity to do another book. And now ever since she put that idea in my head, I'm like, oh, I need to write this.
Well, that works then. So for those that are listening to this podcast on the day of the release, it is August 17th. Your second book is Type X. Is it already out, or is it about to come out?
It comes out on August 19th. So no one's actually read it yet except my beta and my editor. So that's pretty exciting, but nerve-wracking.
Sounds good. So for those listening to the podcast, the day it comes out or the day after, Type X comes out tomorrow. So go and pick it up whenever it comes out, and go pick up Ultra Zenopia and read it until then. What I've read so far is really good. You're pretty good at describing pain in the book. Mm-hmm. How do you write it like that? Because I could feel some of the pain that Winter goes through in the book. Was that hard for you?
You're actually not the first person to say that to me. I had someone message me and say that, like, literally went into a whole spiel about how I write pain and how they actually felt like I was in that pain when I wrote it. And I not obviously the pain Winter goes through, but I do in my life have a lot of experience with pain. I had a birth defect in my foot where I was born without cartilage. So I had to have multiple foot surgeries. I literally walked on a broken foot and it was caused like nerve damage. And so I have a back issue. Like, I've had so many physical problems. It's not even funny. So from the physical side of it, it wasn't that difficult for me to kind of write it.
Gotcha. So we've got 2 fan questions for you that were submitted online. The first one comes from Eric Morrison, and he wants to know, how long did it take you to write it? So I don't know if he's talking about book 1 or book 2. So why don't you just, for both of them, how long did it take you to write each of those?
Well, the way I do it is I kind of plan the whole book out first in a really detailed kind of bullet point, chapter by chapter outline. That it's mainly the research and the outline that takes the longest. But because of the way I do the outline, when it's all done, it literally takes me about a month to write the book.
So it takes 1 month to write it.
Give or take. It depends on my toddler as well.
Right. The second question comes from Jennifer Long. She wants to know, and you might not be able to answer it, which is fine. She wants to know if you have a title for book 3 yet.
I do. I can't say it yet just because I don't want to reveal it until I'm 100% sure it's going to be the title. And obviously, although I know how the trilogy is going to end, and I know a lot of main events that happen in the third book, a lot of it I still don't even know it's going to happen. So although I have a title in mind, I want to make sure it fits the book.
So she needs to go sign up for your newsletter.
I think she might already be on it.
There you go. And for those that haven't signed up for it, if you sign up for Molly's newsletter, I don't know if you plan on doing it with the third one, but for the second book, you sent us little clips of the cover art for several weeks until you were actually going to do a cover release. I thought that was kind of cool. So,
oh, thanks.
Go and sign up for the newsletter so you can get little cool things like this. So going back to, I guess, your life then, what was it that really inspired you to write? Was it the book 1984, or did you kind of always want to be a writer growing up?
To be honest with you, I don't ever remember a time when I wasn't writing. I remember being in, I think it was like kindergarten or first grade, and bringing my mom home these little like chapter books I had made that I'd like stapled together with these really god awful illustrations. And so I just always remember doing it. I mean, my dad was a really big, well, he still is, obviously. He's a really big reader. And I think we even had a library in our house with little stickers that said from the library of Michael Quinn. Like, we had this, loads of books in our house, and he just always really encouraged reading, always bought me loads of books. I mean, even last Christmas, I'm a grown adult and he doesn't even have to buy me Christmas presents. He got me like 10 books last Christmas.
Did he put the sticker on them?
No, good. But I do remember in particular one book that really, really ignited just my love of literature. And he gave it to me when I was about 6. And it was A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. Mm-hmm. That was just like the first book I remember really being gung-ho about. And then obviously Harry Potter came out when I was about 10 or 11.
Do you remember what it was about A Wrinkle in Time that really stood out to you that much?
I don't know how many people listening have read it, but it's like this, it's strange. It's like an epic fantasy, but set in this modern day real world. And I think what I loved about it most was because it's a children's book, the main characters were kids, and the main character just was so strong for a young girl. And it just really resonated with me as a kid.
So going back to your writing a little bit, do you have a favorite line that you have written? And if so, what is it?
Oh, this is tough because I do have a favorite line from Type X, but I can't say it because it's a spoiler.
Okay. Well, then don't answer it. We don't want to spoil the book.
It's so good, though. I really hope people love that part. But
once it comes out and it's been out for a while, you'll have to come back and let us know.
Yeah, I will.
What is, since you say you like for your books to be real accurate when it comes to science and stuff, what's the strangest thing you've had to research for one of your books if someone wants to go onto your computer and look at your history?
The worst thing I've researched, I mean, this isn't a book I have so many book ideas, it's unreal, and I start researching them years in advance. So I've started research on novels that I probably won't write for like another decade. But one of them is, I don't want to discuss the plot because it's really dark, but it involved me having to look into like the age of criminality and basically children being committed. And I was like, this is not a good thing for me. And like child abuse. And I was like Googling all this stuff. And I was like, this is probably really not a good thing for me to have on my computer.
You're probably on some watch list now.
I wouldn't be surprised. I even recently for Type X, because I discuss military vehicles and such. I mean, my husband's in the military, so he was able to help me with some of that. But at one point I had to Google about a bomb, and I was like, this is not good. This is how terrorists get arrested. Like,
that is so funny. If you could write in any author's world, whether it's an indie publisher or a traditionally published book, but if you could write in any world and do like a fan fiction, which book or series would you write in?
Oh my God, I have 2. The first one would be Philip Pullman, the His Dark Materials trilogy. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, those books are amazing. And I don't actually know many people who have read them. I think people assume because the Golden Compass film wasn't all that great, but the books are amazing, like amazing. And the other is Sabriel by Garth Nix. Mm-hmm. That's like the one book I want to see made to film, and it's not, and I'm depressed about that.
And is there one book that you just read over and over and just never get sick of reading?
Well, I've done that with Lord of the Rings a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like the biggest Lord of the Rings nerd in the world.
That is so funny. You'll have to do a fanfic in that one too.
Actually, I do kind of have a Lord of the Rings spoof book I want to write, but I need to see if it would be like legal.
Right. You have to get a hold of your publisher.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous though. One of my best friends is also a massive Lord of the Rings nerd, and I was telling her about it, and she was in tears, laughing with all the stuff I was telling her. So I was like, I really would love to do this, but I'm not sure how legal it would be. So I need to call someone first.
That's funny. Has your publisher given you kind of a timeline for when they want book 3 out?
I mean, Sarah's really good with catering to us. You know, if originally the 3rd book was supposed to come out in January of next year, and I kind of said to her, you know, between editing and all the other stuff that goes into it, I was like, I don't really think there's enough time, because that was actually a shorter time between book 2 and book 3 than book 1 and book 2. So I said, can we, you know, at least make it the same length between each of the books? So she had no problems with that. I'm sure if I went back to her and said I needed more time, she wouldn't be fussed either. So
we're looking at maybe early 2017 for book 3.
It will probably be April.
April.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
April or March, somewhere around there.
Awesome. Can't wait. So we like to end things here on kind of some not so serious questions. Okay. So we're going to jump into what we call the legendary ending. What are some songs that are on currently on your writing playlist?
Oh, this is tough because people aren't going to know them. I'm a bit weird. I'm just going to tell you that now. I don't really listen to modern music. I find the occasional song I really like Shawn Mendes, Stitches. I absolutely love that song. Mm-hmm. But I actually write to entirely instrumental music, film scores, game scores, classical music. I'm like really, really into it. So all of both my playlists are actually on YouTube, minus a couple of songs that I couldn't find on there.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. We'll have to go check them out.
It's some pretty dark and disturbing stuff. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It sounds a bit strange, but it's what I hear when I was writing it. So,
believe it or not, I've actually had several authors on here say that they can't listen to music with words while they write. So
it's too distracting for me.
Yeah. If you were stuck in a zombie apocalypse with one of your book characters, which one would you want to be stuck with and why?
You know what? As sick and twisted as he is, it would probably be Dr. Richter, just because the dude knows how to survive. He knows how to get stuff done. So, you know, at least I probably wouldn't die if I was with him. But saying that, he might be the one who throws me to the dogs. So Jenner, then he would take care of me.
That's funny. Now, if you could pick any character from any media source, movies, comics, books, whatever, television, who would you want to be stuck in a zombie apocalypse with?
Carol from The Walking Dead. I absolutely love her. She is awesome.
Awesome. So let's say our listeners are going to be stranded somewhere for a while, and they can only have 2 books with them, and one of them is your first book, Ultra Zenopia. What other book would you suggest to them?
Well, I'd be hesitant to suggest something dark because it might depress them if they're alone. My book's already dark enough for that. Oh, gosh, that's tough. I'd probably suggest Sabriel. I love that book. It's really good.
Gotcha. If you had a time machine, where would you travel and why?
Probably feudal Japan.
Okay, why that?
I just always been really fascinated by Japanese history and like the samurai and all that. And The Last Samurai is like one of my favorite films. And I know it's not like historically accurate or anything, but I just think it would be really cool to go back and see those sorts of customs and the things that you don't really have anymore nowadays.
Gotcha. If you wrote under a pen name, what genre would you write and why?
Oh, God. That's tough. Because I'm kind of of the mind that the only genre you really need a pen name for is erotica. And I am way too awkward for that. So, I'd probably say if I was writing like something very adult versus, you know, because my series is young adult. So probably if I wrote something that I would not want my young adult readers to touch.
Gotcha.
Just in terms of content, not erotica.
Right. If you had to pick one genre to read for the rest of your life, which genre would you pick and why?
That's tough because I like fantasy, but I also realized recently that I prefer kind of fantasy mixed into reality, if that makes sense. So I'll just be really broad and say speculative fiction.
All right, that works.
Genre fiction.
There we go. And if you had to pick either Marvel or DC for the rest of your comics and movies and television entertainment, which one would you pick?
Oh God, don't hate me, but I'm not a superhero person.
That's all right.
I do. So I'll have to say DC because I really liked the Christian Bale Batman films. Those are really good.
Gotcha. And so for the famous question that we're known for here at the Legendarium, a penguin walks through the door right now wearing a sombrero. What does he say and why is he here?
Well, I'm assuming he's here because I got a brand new sofa today, and it is comfortable. It is mega comfortable, the softest thing I've ever sat on. So I'm assuming he's here for that. I doubt he'd even say anything. He'd just walk by and take my seat.
That's why he'd probably take a nap. And then before we leave, do you have any advice you'd like to give, whether it be for writing or life, that you'd like to share with the listeners?
I've had the opportunity with a lot of book reviewers I've spoken to, that a lot of them are aspiring writers, but they just don't really know how to get going. And I just always kind of say the same thing, just write every day and don't be afraid to ask questions. You'd find that a lot of authors are surprisingly happy to help, happy to offer advice. I wouldn't know anything right now if I hadn't, asked other people.
Yeah, that is good advice. And where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about you or your books? Where's the best place to find you?
Probably just at my website, which is maphipps.com.
Sounds good. So for the listeners, head on over to the show notes at legendarium.com, and we'll have a link to your website, your book trailer, which is absolutely fabulous. Do you plan on doing a book trailer for Type X?
It's actually already out.
Is it? Have I not seen it?
It's even better than the first one. It is even better than the first one, so you should go watch it.
I'm going to have to go watch it now. I must have missed when you put it up.
It's on my website, so
all
you'll see
right.
it.
maphipps.com. Well, thank you for joining us for this 30-minute author interviews. We'll have to have you back sometime.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Woo! Well, that's our time for this week. Or maybe not. Maybe episode 10 is coming out on Friday. Do you like the episodes you've heard so far? Do you like the podcast? I hope so. And if so, would you head on over to legendarium.com and click the link to iTunes or Google Play or wherever, and just take a few minutes to rate it and review it. Let people know what you think. It'll help get the podcast hopefully out there to other listeners. And until next time, guys, make sure you stay legendary. People often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. That's from Zig Ziglar.